This episode of the AIXR podcast is brought to you by Zapper, the folks behind Mattercraft, the leading visual development environment for building immersive 3D web experiences for mobile, headsets, and desktop. Mattercraft combines the power of a game engine with the flexibility of the web, and now features an AI assistant that helps you design, code, and debug in real time, right in your browser. Whether you're a dev, designer, or just getting started, Mattercraft speeds up your workflow and brings your 3D ideas to life faster than ever. Start building smarter at mattercraft.io. Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlie Fink with Ted Chilowitz and Rony Abovitz for the AIXR podcast. Today is Friday, January 16th, 2026. Good morning, guys.
Morning, gentlemen. How are you?
I am so excited about today's podcast because I have a very close friend coming on, Mike Levine, the founder and CEO of Movie Flow, which is an AI production platform. But Mike and I go way back. He did the AR in my second book, Convergence, and he's an amazing VR developer. He started his career at LucasArts. He is a guy like us who has done a lot. He has a long career. It'd probably take him a whole half hour to go through it.
He and I had a delicious dinner at Lotus of Siam, the best Thai restaurant on the planet in Vegas last week. So
it was awesome.
Very familiar with Mike.
So let's hit the news real quick because we have some big stories. Apple picks Gemini for Siri. Oh, wow.
I tell you what, I think that's super smart. I mean, out of all of my love for Apple in so many ways, my level of frustration with Siri not getting simple dictation right and simple back and forth right has been the bane of my existence. I've talked to lots of friends at Apple about it. Like, guys,
it's shameful.
Why can't you figure this out? And guess what? They just, you know what? Go with what works. Get Gemini involved.
Exactly. Martin Scorsese iPhone 4S commercial in 13 years ago demonstrated Siri acting as an agent and doing things that it never has.
Don't get me started.
So Charlie and Ted, like, think about this. You know how deals like this happen? There's a conference, these like small closed conferences, and Tim Cook has lunch with Sundar because, you know, there's a lot of business with search engines and all that. And Sundar basically puts a number in front of Tim and says, this is how much we spend a year to build Gemini, the amount of engineers we have. It makes no financial sense for you to do it. You'll never catch us.
Yep.
And Tim's like, I make the iPhone. I need you to stop doing these things with your Android systems. And Sundar's like, I need help with displays and some memory. And they do some kind of like coexistence horse trade because they both know that neither one can get anyone out of the world. So it's a superpower alliance. And that is actually how things operate at that level.
Wearable AI, I am convinced, with voice as the operating system is the future. And that device is going to be even more intimate to us than our mobile phones, if that is even at all possible.
Are they glasses?
Not yet, but they could be any kind of wearable. So I think that's going to be the ecosystem, right? Everything's operating off of your AI-enabled smartphone with a continuous connection to the internet and the cloud. And it needs, constantly streaming contextual information from the physical world, which it probably can get from a lot of devices, including earbuds, probably lapel pins, and as well as glasses.
Can I go slightly dystopian because it's a Friday? Let's say you have your earbuds, your glasses,
compared to any other Friday. What's going on here?
No, but here's the thing: you're going to get very enamored with this like AI cloud around you, and this amazing set of things. Why are they doing this? They will know what you're doing, who you're doing it with, where you are, what you're looking at, what you're feeling, and you become a very marketable entity that will be sold like a piece of meat at a Chicago stockyard to hundreds and thousands of people who are trying to micro use you in every way possible. And you're going around like, look how fun this is. This is like the Kobe beef, right? It's like, oh, I got a massage. They're playing me classical music. And then all of a sudden one day, whap, you're like, what just happened? We are the Kobe beef. So either you wake up from the Matrix or you're going to be one of those Kobe beef cows. I hate to say it, but you have to understand their intentions. And their intentions are, you are the food. You are not the guest at Thanksgiving. Let's just put that on the table.
Yeah, well, it's that classic line, right? If you don't know what the product is, you
You
are
are the product.
You are the turkey sitting in the cage getting corn from the farmer going, how nice is he? Until, where did Bob go? Where's Jerry? And then suddenly you're in that room.
As you're saying that, Rony, a little notification pops up in the corner of my computer from my good friend Elon Musk. Immortality is real. That's what it said.
So if you had read about the state of the world today, let's say when I was in college in the late 70s, early 80s, I would have said, oh, that's dystopian fiction. That'll never happen.
And here we are.
So anyway, okay, next news story. Meta is laying off 10% of the Reality Labs team. Pretty much everybody and everything that has to do with content for the Quest or Meta 3 headset. So
it is sad. It is sad.
I don't think it's sad at all.
No?
Look, you guys have heard me pontificate this many times on this podcast that VR needs to right size, that it is too overblown. They spend too much money for too little return on what they're creating. It needs to be leaner, smarter, more effective to its marketplace, delivering towards its users and consumers.
I don't think they give a shit.
Professional.
I think they're going to wearables. They're going exactly where we were just talking about Google and Apple going. And
I'm just happy to see them trimming this back a little bit. I think it's actually an important step in making this industry viable. That's my opinion.
Well, here's where I think we are. Okay, gamers like consoles better. Women in teams like their private smartphones. And unless we're going to have another pandemic, VR's killer apps are training and simulation. And this is for me. I love VR. I teach VR.
Yeah.
Why aren't we using it as much as I used to? Because no one is. It's not funny. It never became a thing.
Yeah, it's funny because it's been a while since I've been traveling so much that I put on my Quest 3. I put it on yesterday for about an hour and just popped into Beat Saber for 20 minutes. I forgot how much fucking fun it is. Like, it's really fun to do it, you know?
I guess things are not so bad that people would prefer the world of Population 1 to physical reality. Yeah. And until then, Meta is going to be the Sega Genesis of VR and also ran to the PlayStation and Nintendo Switch.
Could I throw out something that will be totally unexpected?
Please.
The fact that Meta's doing this, and you just said that, if I was a kid in a garage right now, I would think the best thing in the world for me to do right now is figure out the next wave of VR. And the reason I'm saying it is I started Mako when people threw the flag on the field that robotics were always going to fail, was uninvestable. And at that moment, the next wave of successful robotics happened. Google came out of the disaster of every AI company until them was a total failure until they got it right. So not having things right is actually an opportunity in the market. So there's a whole trail of bodies to study. What did they do wrong? And I bet you for a lot less money, a couple kids in a garage are going to figure out what unlocks really good immersive experience, Ready Player One level stuff. Some kid's going to figure it out.
Lucky.
Well, that's a perfect example of what I just talked about. If you think about the most popular application still to date in VR, it came from these two Czech developers with a small amount of money, and they came from the mobile world, and they created the first monster hit in VR, Beat Saber, which is still the most used, most download, I think the most commercially successful application in all of virtual reality.
Look, the Ready Player One promise is it will happen. Somebody hasn't gotten it right. And by the way, I don't think it's Palmer Luckey today. There's another 16-year-old Palmer. We don't know who that person is.
Yeah, I don't know. I've lost my religion on that one. Speaking of which, Xreal raises another $100 million.
Woo!
So, it's not easy to get first date.
From who?
That's kind of the janky part.
It's a little murky.
And some
Chinese intelligence.
Some people are saying that it's bullshit.
No.
Which would
Chinese intelligence.
Yeah.
Let me just say that louder. The only people that would fund them are Chinese government intelligence. Thank you. All right, let's keep going on that.
The only people, they got a first date with Aura. Okay, it's non-exclusive, but it puts them in the pole position for the development of Android XR. But that doesn't always work. Look what's happening with VR. Maybe anything with birdbath optics is going to stay very niche. So,
why are they getting funded? I'll tell you why they're getting funded. The Chinese government's funding them. If they were able to get parts of Europe or parts of non-China regions to put them on, you are feeding China everything you're looking at and everything you're doing. I think they will get billions of dollars to make it work, to get people in London or Germany. I bet you they'll be banned from America at some point, like DJI drones. Once people figured out what DJI drones are actually doing, they're scanning the United States and telling somebody everything about our country in 3D. Somebody finally woke up and said, this is insane. Someone will also realize that, if the White House is listening, great. This is going to happen with any Chinese-made AR. Blanket, full stop. Everyone knows that who has any idea about how this stuff works.
Rony, I think today you need to tell us who killed JFK. You're on a roll today, man.
No,
you got it going.
No. By the way, what I'm describing, because I built these systems, and we had no supply chain happening in China, because we understood what happens when you put those components in your system that senses the environment and the world and listens in. Who cares about those things? Very easy. Intelligence agencies. So if your sensing is streaming away from a localized compute that you own, you are telling somebody everything. Your Alexa's telling somebody everything. Your Meta's telling somebody everything. By the way, magically, one of the things that we pissed everyone off on was we blocked that from happening. We said none of that will happen, to the dismay of some of our investors who wanted it all to happen. And that probably alienated me from some of those folks who wanted all that data. And I said, no, you can't get it. Unless you work with a system that blocks all of it and keeps it private under the control of a user, the real promised personal computer, you are feeding yourself. You are the turkey. As we said at the beginning of the thing, you are the food. Just remember that. Knowingly realize you are fattening up to be someone's Thanksgiving dinner. Full stop.
All right. So this raise brings the company's total funding to $433 million. But the valuation is only 2x. It's only $1 billion.
Yeah, it's only $1 billion company.
Ask yourself why.
Because they've been around for 10 years and they're in a very, very difficult position.
Who are they employees of? No.
So
ask yourself, this company is an employee of what? If you follow the chain, they ultimately all work for a government. There's no doubt about that. That is like not even a secret in China. All of these companies are all government has a board seat. You are a government employee. You're not a 100x multiple tech company anymore. That's over.
Charlie, we need to go to our kitchen and get our aluminum foil and make our hats right now.
So listen, here's by contrast.
We're on a roll today.
Yes, you are on a roll.
Woo!
Xreal, the AI company, it's a foundation model for cinematography and effects using AI, just raised $80 million at a $1.3 billion valuation.
And Alex, have you ever been on Reddit to see what people really think about Higgsfield? Man, it is a cesspool of like bait and switch, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Well, I would say I like Higgsfield and I like Alex, and there's no doubt it's going to get better. But yeah, I mean, you have to be a bit of a cinema nerd to really effectively.
Not even that. I mean, I just see so many people that try and use this and feel like they're burning money not to achieve their objective. It's a fascinating thing to me.
Well, he's getting a 10x valuation and Xreal is getting a 2x valuation.
Yeah,
so that probably tells everything about the world today.
Yeah.
So here's some news that broke after I did the column yesterday, because it's kind of the script for the show. Wikipedia has made a deal with all of the AI companies finally, because they've been really scraped to death.
Yeah.
So they may as well get paid for it. And their traffic, because of AI, they say it's down 8%. I don't believe it. I think it's much more.
Do we have a sense of how
I feel bad about that.
They've
been pillaged. They've been pillaged.
Do we have a sense of how Wikipedia, like, what will their return on this be by making this deal? Like, how much
survival, subsistence survival? I bet.
I know, but Charlie, do you have any numbers on how?
No, there were no numbers in the deal this morning.
Yeah, interesting.
But I think that's a big move, and I think it's great that they're not going to have to get in line like the New York Times and sue everybody.
Yeah,
because that could take a decade. And
but isn't that sad that, like, because you've been overrun and pillaged, and you have a gun to your head, and you have no way to fight, you've basically surrendered, and you're like the Vichy.
You have to make the deal. Yeah,
it's like
no
it's
way
a
except to
Vichy
make the deal.
compromise, right? They've been overrun. There's nobody coming to save them, and it's sad that the open source stream has been completely pillaged and taken over. And the idea of open source wasn't so that you get raided and pillaged by giant hyperscalers. Like Richard Stallman, I think he's still alive, would be having a complete freak out about this. This was the exact opposite of why open source free software existed. Wikipedia is like one of those examples, and these hyperscalers have ruined that. They really have completely destroyed that ethic. You got to figure out a different way to revive. It's actually quite terrible. I don't know if anyone cares anymore, but the idea of open source and free software has merit. If you look at the history of it, it's actually important for freedom of people. Wiki was one of those little flags waving around, and now it's like, it feels like it's overrun.
So here's a story that's really going to set you off after that rant, Ron. OpenAI has invested $252 million in Sam Altman-backed Merge Labs.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about this. This crazy round trip investment.
There's no conflict of interest.
No,
guys,
not at all.
There's zero conflict of interest. When you are CEO of a company, you can obviously use the money to do whatever you want, right? That's how the world works. Not at all, but somebody will ask questions one day, and of course there's no conflict of interest, right?
Of course not. And meanwhile, it must give Altman tremendous pleasure to be backing a company that has a reasonable chance of lapping Neuralink.
Yeah.
So
wait,
yeah.
Could I just counter that?
Sure.
Some of the founders of Neuralink founded a company in Boston called Precision Neuro. I'm friends with them. If you look up Precision Neuro, if you're a geek and listen to us, an amazing company doing incredibly good work for neurosurgery, doing the kind of stuff that a precision, that Neuralink promising, but to actually help people with diseases. And it's just really, really good stuff. And it's like credible, and it's real med tech and FDA cleared and all those type of things, right? So look at Precision Neuro and go, why would an OpenAI, which is a consumer-facing company, what are they doing playing around with this stuff? You have to be very serious, very focused on med tech and risk and health. And like none of that correlates with like the wild craziness of growing an OpenAI for consumers. Why are they doing it? I think they're doing it to put a pin in Elon's eye, because basically Elon's like, I'm going to build Grok. So they're like, I'm going to build, I'm just going to go toe to toe. This is like ego guys fighting each other on a world scale. And I'm sure a rocket company is coming soon, and an electric car company. Like my thing is taller than yours. And that's what we're seeing happen in the world. And is that a good use of money? Like, is that really what the world needs? Is this really going to do good things?
I hope so. I hope so. BCI is, even Neuralink is helping people who, have tremendous, disabilities. So,
but Charlie, the OpenAI thing in your brain, is that going to be helpful to you? Or are you going to be now completely the turkey, like totally controlled? Okay. Here's an ad. I must buy this shampoo.
We're dancing around a question for you, Rony, about SynthB, because you are building an AI system that will be completely secure and walled off from all these kind of manipulations and problems. Can you just tell us a little about that?
CI, not AI.
Okay.
All right. So let me extrapolate away from my startup.
Go on.
To a field. I think the field of computing intelligence, we call ourselves CI, Collaborative Intelligence, needs to be put people as a focus, have complete privacy and control of your data, total provenance of what is inside that thing, how did it get built, you can audit it, what's there, nothing weird, serves you, not serves a different person, doesn't have hidden agendas. I like to think of that as the golden retriever principle, not just for our company, but for all companies. I bring that golden retriever to my house. It's loyal to your family. It's friendly. You know it doesn't have weird genes that's going to bite your head off. It's like part of your family. It's in your home. That attitude.
Sounds very familiar, Rony, to the stated objectives and marketing tools of Apple. Apple talks a lot about privacy, protecting your data, protecting your identity. Do they actually really make good on it? I would say they certainly try. I doubt they fully make good on it. But at least they put dollars and resources against that psychology of you are important to us. Your data is not as important as you are to us. That's their mantra.
Can we separate two things? The philosophy of Apple, Steve Jobs and Wozniak in the garage, the bicycle of your mind, the empowered personal computer.
Yeah.
Because central computing was this thing at universities and government, they wanted to give people that power and privacy. I think that tenet is being forgotten. Building a company based on that tenet. Hopefully others will do that. You really have to give Jobs and Wozniak credit for that empowered personal computer that came out of like Berkeley in the Bay Area, where personal freedom and liberty and independence mattered. The Bay Area has lost itself. It's lost its soul and has gone total Big Brother. Hopefully some people in the West Coast still remember why they exist and who was pushing it, and all of those philosophies, like Jobs and Wozniak, but not just them. That whole culture inspired me, and I think a whole bunch of others, to get into this field.
The summer of love is not what you think about when you think about Meta.
No, everything they built against, the next wave has forgot it all and has gone all in. Instead of being the rebels and the Jedis, they've decided to build a Death Star.
Do you guys see in the corner of my little Death Star here? Do you see all those boxes up there? I know not many people watch this podcast; they listen, so we'll have to describe it. That is a small collection of the box of every Apple product I've ever owned. I have no other boxes from any other company of all the tech I own in my crazy life and my crazy career, except I literally have almost every single box of every product that I have purchased over a 40 plus year period with Apple. I have my very first and second laptops that I've owned from Apple. I have.
Do you have the devices in those boxes? Because that could be really valuable.
I have some of the devices in the boxes, like this. You guys recognize
Ted, honest
this,
question.
Right?
Honest question.
Yeah.
You and I are both Apple fanboys, but are we fanboys of Apple now or what Apple was? It's like loving Star Wars, early Lucas versus Phantom Menace. Like, are we like not focused on what they are today versus what they were?
It's a really good question. It's very much an X-Files I want to believe, right? I want to believe that Apple is still the same company that I grew up with and worked with and collaborated with and partnered with, right? You're the same, right? We want to believe that that is what Apple still is, but the actuality is Apple is probably not really that anymore. But compared to other companies, at least they still try. At least they still give it the old college try.
Mike Levine, my good friend and incredible entrepreneur. He's been working in XR and in games for decades. Now he's got an AI company, and we're working on projects together, and he's working with agencies and growing like crazy. I don't know if you guys saw, Bogdan Nesbitt and Holy Water just raised another $222 million for vertical streaming. So it is happening, those kind of short form entertainment. And Mike has got a platform for creating that quickly and efficiently at a very high quality. So we'll talk about all of that. But I love this guy, and I'm really happy to have you on the podcast this morning, Mike.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Mutual, and I appreciate you having me here. And can you hear me okay? Because I don't usually do it with it. Okay.
Yeah, and by the way,
is that
Mike,
a real background? Are you in
I was going to say,
like
you've got very
attic?
Kubrick sensibilities going on right now. Everything is centered up.
Ted is talking about
angles.
the appearance of Mike's man cave where he's brought.
Yes, but it's very, very center framed. Very.
Is it real? Is that a real place or a fake background?
Yeah, no, that's real. I blurred it with OBS so you couldn't, see my Three Stooges poster. I didn't want to offend anyone, but that's what that thing is.
I dig it.
That's funny. We're like the Three Stooges.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having me. Honored to be here. I don't know who canceled, but thank them too.
Well, Mike, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background? I know Charlie and you go way back, but I'm sure our listeners would love to hear a little bit of the storied life of someone that got to work with Lucas and friends and experience all that. And then where that leads you today in the wonderful and wacky world of AI and what you're doing in it.
Okay, I'll try to be succinct. As you guys know, it's hard to be 30 plus years. Try to summarize. But yeah, so I'm from Boston. As Jonathan Richman said, I love Massachusetts. So grew up right outside of Boston. We don't have to talk about the Patriots, Charlie, don't worry. And yeah, after I went to college, I was a journalism major, and I wanted to learn more about that and go to UC Berkeley. So I moved to California, followed a bunch of my friends there too, to the Bay Area. But I wanted to become a resident first, wait a year, get better tuition because I was cheap. I wanted to help my parents or whatever. And so I needed a job, and I think I delivered phone books for 2 days in like a not so nice area. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work out. And magically, I think it's probably the only time they did it. I just was like looking in the paper and it was like Lucasfilm Games, QA. I didn't really know what that was. There was no Google then to look it up, but it was like testing games essentially. But went in for an interview. I don't know why they hired me. It was like 50 people at the time. I joke because I had a college degree, which most people there, at least at that level, was a bunch of Marin
By the
kids,
way, I'll stop you for a second because you honed in on probably the reason they hired you is because you didn't know why they hired you. That is the key core component to, for sure, Charlie and Rony and my success is we never have any idea why this stuff works out, but it just does.
The only other theory I developed over the years is because they knew they were going to be doing Nintendo games in like 6 to 12 months. And I said, that's what I grew up playing, and everyone else there was a PC gaming geek. I literally had to call my friend back east and be like, tell me some PC game names, because I had only really played console games. And I was like, Dark Knight, and I was like, okay, whatever. But yeah, anyways, they threw me into what was called the test pit, which was a dark, smelly place with awesome people. And let me just say this about this whole era. I am always humbled and like with much humility because like this happened to me by luck, and what was happening at Lucasfilm Games, which became LucasArts, it was a really magical time. And the people who work there, it was just like this all-star studded cast from every aspect of the production. And some of these people have gone on to be well known in games, and these games have lasted, at least in a sort of gaming cult fashion, over the years. I mean, even a year or two ago they made a new Monkey Island. Ron and Dave Grossman.
Let me stop you here because you reached back into that era and created one of the best VR titles for the
I was going to get to that.
Max. So good.
Yep. So anyways, I worked there for about a year in the test pit, but I still had that bug about documentary filmmaking. So I got an internship at this place in the Bay Area called BAVAC, Bay Area Video Coalition. I think it still exists. And like Frontline and documentaries used to get cut there, but they were on the cutting edge of technology. And suddenly I was learning about the video toaster and nonlinear editing and even CMX editing, which we'll get back to with the state of AI. But and you guys remember it, at least I'm guessing, because you're of that era. But
I haven't heard the word toaster in quite a while.
I know. You remember it? The Amiga toaster? One day at BAVAC, like it broke, and I like restarted the Commodore or whatever it was, and the guy lost his shit on me because he was just like, "Don't ever do that." And I was like, "Dude, the computer was crashed. There was nothing else you could have done." Like, anyway, so I was basically able to take. First, I moved over to the art department because I asked the art director one day, "Hey, can I use your Macintoshes?" Because I was learning Photoshop from the great, may rest in peace, David Biedny. I don't know if any of you guys knew him, but legend in the early Photoshop years, him and Bert Monroy. And I got to learn from kind of the kings and ended up working with him. But I wanted to practice. And then 2 weeks later, the art director's like, "Oh, you know Photoshop? Can you help us with this?" So I moved over to the art department. And I really spent a year like learning their ways. As I was learning this other stuff, I worked on Sam and Max, which was the VR game we made years later. And but one day it was sort of, and I don't even know if this happened, but this is always the story I tell. I walked into the art director and sort of was like, hey, you know that stuff that's taking you a week? I think I can do it in like half a day. And she was like, what? Okay, go ahead, show me. And I did. And so that led to working on some cool games, and really, the technology was changing. I would say I started there when it was floppy disks, and I ended when the internet was like, you needed a key to get into the closet to get into it, basically. So yeah, we worked on a game that was called The Dig. That was Steven Spielberg, was going to be a movie, and they ended up making it as a game, and it could never, they had tried to make it 3 or 4 times. So when they brought us in with our new techniques and animators that had gone to CalArts, we were just like, we're going to get this done. And we did, and it came out pretty cool. People still love it to this day. And then this funny thing happened again, like timing and life, is that like live action became a thing in video games, if you remember. And Graham, who worked with Rony, like that era
Divine.
of, yes, Seventh
Legend.
Guest. Yep. And
Graham?
Wing Commander.
I didn't know you
Yes,
knew Graham.
well, I met with him at Magic Leap. We'll get to that. That Wing Commander with Mark Hamill and everything. And so there was like this, hey, we're Lucas, we should be doing this too. And so somehow the ball was hit. We always, like all of my friends who we did this, we were like, we can't even believe they let us do this, but sort of handed the ball to us to figure it out. How are we going to do this in 8-bit, which it was at the time? I mean, I convinced them to buy a $10,000 blue screen treadmill from ILM because they weren't using it anymore. And we made for 3 months or so, we worked on this big test that was like it was going to be an Indiana Jones live action game. They brought George down, and it was state of the art. And if he liked it, he was going to bring Harrison Ford in and yada, yada. He took one look at it though, and it was 8-bit, and it was just like, ain't ready yet. Not for Harrison Ford, so, but that led to Rebel Assault, which was the first few live action games we made. And then eventually when I left, the last project I worked on was Jedi Knight 2, which was 2 to 3 weeks of us going down to Van Nuys and shooting an original live action Star Wars story, which is like, what? How did they let us do that?
Mike,
thinking about,
because it was the 80s. As you're talking,
no, not that old.
I have a curiosity about the culture that you lived in, because I've gotten, certainly not nearly as embedded as you have been in the world of Lucas, but I've spent many an hour with those teams in various work capacities and partnering with them on various things. And I feel between Lucas and LucasArts and Pixar, they're one of the few places where magic really exists. Like,
so funny you're saying
this. I just wonder if you see anything in the modern world that still holds to those kinds of ethics and feelings and connections, because I struggle to find them. I feel like everything is so
funny,
commercialized.
It's so funny you're bringing this up, because, and I'll just fast forward this whole story, because we did Jedi Knight, and I was working with, that's when I ended up working with ILM a ton, and Skywalker Ranch. They were sending me VHS tapes of the Young Indie show, and we would sit there and watch like hours of like blue screen, here's the final shot. And I became really tight with those guys. Scott Squires, who's a visual effects legend and a good friend, he had this tool. It was called Flipbook, and we used it internally because you could paint and do all this stuff. And my buddy Forrest, who's very business minded, who was at ILM, he was just like, hey, we're going to do a startup. And so this was it was the sort of a beginning of an exodus from Lucas anyway. I went to this startup, and why I'm just getting to that is one of my roles there. We built this rotoscoping tool for visual effects, high end, and I was the one who got to go around to all these different companies and show it to them. And I went to Pixar, and that's when I learned, because the second you walked in the door, you got that vibe. I was like, this is like
Yeah,
LucasArts.
magic like literally
it has that
out of the walls. It's incredible.
Well, and I always used to say about LucasArts, it's like if the guy in shipping had a good joke, it would get into the game. Like that was the culture. Like everyone was sort of, and these suits, they're not going to tell us what to do. We were the creative, but when I started there, the whole story, of course, is they couldn't do Star Wars games because who was it? Some Activision, someone had the license. And so that's why all these, which became legendary, these adventure games, Monkey Island, Full Throttle, Grim Fandango, Day of the Tentacle, in gaming circles, these are like legendary games, but they never would have been made if the business people just said, and as soon as the Star Wars store opened, it was over. It was the end of that era, essentially, because it was just too much money to be made with those games. But yeah, so I did that startup. I moved back to the East Coast. That's when I joke I invented remote working. And, I worked on the film Spawn, which was with David Biedney. And that was done actually by like 50 visual effects houses from across the world. And I used to go into his tiny office in Marin, and we'd be watching dailies of like MPEG-1s being sent in from Japan. And then Scott Squires was telling me stories about Doug Trumbull. If you know who he is, of course.
Oh my God.
And
how do you know Doug?
Sadly, I never met the man, but he inspired my life to be back here.
Okay.
Because he lived in...
Hang on a second.
I want to hear. Yeah, please.
Very quick interject. Doug was a key advisor very early on to Magic Leap. I got to go to his farm, which was crazy.
45 minutes from me.
Yeah, it's just like Doug is such a... Why don't you describe him for our figures that don't understand what an incredibly important influence he is, like everything in visual effects.
Well, he did 2001, which when it came out in 1970 was like...
And the 1964 World's Fair, which was really
right.
So tell us, tell our listeners about Doug, because he is such a critical figure.
You sounds like you're more of an expert than me. You can tell the World's Fair part. I mean, I know for 2001, the glass plates that had never been done before, and it was legendary. And then, the only story I can really tell is the one I heard from Scott so many times about Close Encounters. Because Close Encounters, the story was, one day Doug went to Scott with a cup of coffee, black coffee, poured the cream in, and said, "How do we do this in film?" And so Scott had to figure out, built this tank. They did it with ink, and all those clouds. Those in all those movies that had those like incredible clouds. They must have used it in like 5 Spielberg movies and other ones, but that kind of came from Doug's like challenging Scott to do that, essentially.
So can I tell you a real inside baseball one on Doug? So when Spielberg was doing Ready Player One, he spent a lot of time at Magic Leap because we were actually doing a lot of stuff that you see in the movie, and he did some cool experiments. So I'm like, tell me about a couple things. So one, why did Doug do Close Encounters? Why did Spielberg do Close Encounters? Both had a really strong belief that what they were filming was real, and they both had these experiences that led them to want to make this film. Now, Doug had this very incredible experience on 2001 with Kubrick, which looks so damn real, which leads to something which is really wacky that most people don't understand. There was a whole conspiracy theory that we didn't land on the moon, that it was all rigged.
There still is.
Where did that come from? That came from the fact that if you understand NASA and the government, there always has to be multiple backup plans. And in case we failed, which we did not, we did go there, but this is the holding two thoughts simultaneously. I'll go through this really quickly. In case we failed, you needed something, because this was like a race against the Soviet Union, to communicate we didn't fail. Who were the best people in the world to do that? It was Kubrick, and it was Doug Trumbull. And if you look at the visual effects in 2001, there was no doubt they were the best people in the world. But what optics did they use on 2001? They got the optics from NASA. Why did they get the optics from NASA? Because they also did a B-roll for NASA. So what is very likely true, I don't know if we're ever going to get 100%, is that Kubrick and Doug did film a B-roll of a moon landing on the same optics that were used on the real landing, so they were 1-to-1. And they knew how to do it, and Doug knew how to do the atmosphere. That's not that exotic to think about. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we didn't land on the moon. I've met astronauts who landed on the moon. We really did. So the idea that both things are true, we filmed a B-roll and we land on the moon, is likely what happened.
And for our listeners,
that's Doug.
For our listeners, if you want to dive deeper into this, just Google O.J. Simpson, Capricorn 1. That's all I'm going to say on the topic.
So, Mike, now you're in Massachusetts, you're on your own, and you become a tech entrepreneur.
A tech survivor. I moved back here, and
get t-shirts that say tech survivor. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I actually like that.
Or tech surfer. But hindsight's 2020. But when I moved back here, somehow I hooked up with Hasbro and like the music labels, and you don't know what you don't know, but coming from the West Coast was like, whoa, you know how to do all these things. And so this is kind of the first wave. Is I jumped into Flash because this was the tech, and Flash was very, very good to me. And we did a lot of different projects with it, with Hasbro and the music labels, and working with artists and websites, and that ultimately led to us doing one of the first virtual worlds after Club Penguin. It was called Planet Casmo. And our thing was like virtual concerts. We did like 100 virtual concerts with major pop acts. I should have gotten a patent. I'd be retired now. But that whole space collapsed, of course, including Club Penguin. There were no payment rails, yada, yada, kids. It was like, we were playing school recess monitor most of the day, trying to. AI would make this all so much easier.
I wonder how many of our listeners know about the culture of Club Penguin. My kids, so I have kids that are in their mid-20s now, were crazy about Club Penguin. And then it got acquired by Disney and it went off the rails. Like it stopped being Club Penguin. It became Club Bad. And my kids reacted so quickly to like, this is not the Club Penguin that we connect with. They were done. Like almost instantly, they were done.
I think also what happened, because I don't think it's all their fault, is that at the same time they were kind of retracting, Minecraft happened. Then Roblox shortly after it. And when I was right there when Minecraft happened, but look at this thing. It looks so horrible. Who's going to want to do that? You learn, So, I mean, so we're getting to the good part of the story, or at least related to perk your ears up. So was able to raise some money for the first time, which was great. And we started making mobile free-to-play games, which are still out there. They do okay. But free-to-play was emerging. As a pure game developer, I didn't really like it. I still don't, but maybe that was the wrong business decision. And I didn't want to raise $20 more million just to do user acquisition, even though maybe I should have. But then I got a call from a friend who I worked with at Lucas. His name was Wallace, who worked at Magic Leap. So I went down to Magic Leap, my one of 3 times. And I got to see the very early demo. Same one, I guess you showed Spielberg.
Did I meet you or did I not meet you?
All right, so we'll get to that part of the story.
Okay,
so
I apologize if we...
No, it's okay. No, we never met.
Rony, you were a very hard man to get to in those days.
There was a lot of craziness going on.
I once, I think it was on my second trip, I was in the bathroom and you came in next to me and we peed next to each other at the urinal. And I was like, no, this is not how I'm going to meet him. No, there'll be a better day. So here we are.
Wait. Since you brought that up, I was so overbooked and busy. People were scheduling urinal meetings, and I'm like, they would track, and I go to pee, and someone would show up.
I didn't know I had one of those.
Talking. No, I didn't plan that. I didn't even know this was happening. So I realized like multiple times someone's showing up and have an agenda. I'm like, no one do that anymore. Like I need like 25 seconds. please, like no urinal
Well, Mike,
meetings. But they were
I
actually
should've-
scheduling urinal meetings at some
If
point.
it makes you feel any better, Mike,
I should have booked one of those.
if it makes you feel any better, Mike, that's literally how I met Steve Jobs. I was peeing next to him in the outer lobby of the Infinite Loop before I had
Life lesson.
True story.
This has gone.
True
This
story.
has gone very,
God.
very lo-fi. This discussion. Anyway,
Well, you know,
I
I told you,
apologize
I'm
for
from
not having the
Boston.
time to meet up. I really
Well,
apologize.
Mike's life
for that.
story, you know, when you're in your, let's say, third act of your career, it takes a long freaking time to tell your life
Tell
story.
the story.
That's right. I know. We're still doing it. Anyway, I'm trying to wrap
Keep
it up
going,
here
keep
so we
going.
can get
This
to
is
movie
awesome.
flow. But yeah. So
You can have
no,
like
but
30 seconds to talk about movie flow.
yeah,
So
I
gotta-
give you no, but I give you a Magic Leap all the credit. I mean, that gave me the AR bug. Even though the early demo I saw, you know, I like to say it was like on an optometrist machine, and
Beast.
you know, showing me like the
the
little
Beast.
wire and stuff. But honestly, if I'm being totally honest, I was coming from game development. I was kind of like, and it was just like a walking, you know, cycle of a character, and I was kind of like, that's it. You know, and they were like, come back in a year, it'll be better then. And so I did, but it still gave me the AR bug. And we started like doing tests with Hasbro. And so that led, and we were already talking to Phil Tippett because I knew people at his
That's
studio.
when I met you.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting to when I met you.
Hologrid
So
the Hologrid
Yeah.
monster battle with
Right.
smartphones. Early
yeah,
AR.
so we got Apple's Game of the Day. That led us to working with HoloLens and Google and Niantic and doing multiple years of work and shipping apps with the toy companies like AR Dragon Battles on your phone. And ultimately, though, you know, they love the bright, shiny object. It started moving more to marketing stuff and Eighth Wall, and kind of culminated with us doing a spot for the Super Bowl for halftime and Pepsi, working with a company. And that was really cool. But I'm just like, I don't want to do 30-second marketing spots. And I knew like mobile, despite the success of Pokemon, and especially after working with them, I knew mobile AR just wasn't going to be a thing for gaming, because bottom line is you can only hold your arm up for so long. And that's kind of like really hurts engagement. And so you have these sort of half-baked experiences.
Did you ever play
trying
Dr. G or the Lost Classic? Did you ever get to do that?
Dr. Gordbort's robots from Magic Leap.
Oh yeah, I
That
think
Weta
I did.
That Weta made when it was
yeah,
released.
yeah, and I met the guys who did it. I met with them at GDC. Those guys were cool. No,
From
that
Weta.
was, dude. I was trying to convince
That's
them
what
at
gaming
GDC.
was supposed to be. That's what it was
No,
supposed to be.
that was incredible, and I was trying to convince them at GDC. I was like, you guys should still put this out.
Why is Magic Leap
iPhone.
still sitting on that title? That makes no sense. They're going to do nothing with it.
Do you know what's funny?
And
Let's not talk about that. Keep going. You have a life story.
okay, yeah. I'm gonna wrap this up. So yeah, I sort of saw the tail end of that. I wanted to get back more into gaming. Crypto gaming was a thing. We were able to raise a bunch of money to sort of get into that. But after a year and a half to 2 years of that, I became pretty disillusioned. The whole space was imploding.
R.I.P.
And
Planet Mojo.
Yeah. But gave birth to, you know, caught the AI bug really a year and a half ago or so during the summer.
You caught it at
Realized-
GDC, you told me.
Well, yeah. Well, I'd had it before then. I mean, I was already there pitching AI games, and we had made like an AI poker thing. And that's when we started to market it and use the AI tools out there. That's when I was just like, okay, these tools are not built for creatives, for creative professionals. This is, you know, sort of the dark ages, which I still think we're in for the most part, of these AI tools. And that's why we started building Movie Flow. At the same time, you had to have like 10 to 20 subscriptions. So you're jumping between all these things. So, you know, we're not the only one. Now there's other aggregators, but that's one of the things we do with Movie Flow is give you a choice of all these models and not have to maintain, you know, 10 plus subscriptions, some of which you're not even using for months as the models fall behind.
So Movie Flow is available to the public, movieflowai.com. And, you know, it's tokenized system. So you use whatever tools you want and you get charged depending on what they charge Mike. Some of them.
Can I just say one thing? And I don't know if you're going to print this. And I don't know when this comes out, by the way. But
Tuesday.
so it's
Tuesday.
Okay. So it's MovieFlow, FLOAI.com, no W. We're going to be actually doing a brand name change because there's been some confusion with another site, let's say.
Oh, brand name change? What is the new name?
You want me to reveal it here?
Sure, go ahead. It's coming out on Tuesday.
We've got so many listeners around the world.
Yes, it'll help you.
I just don't know if we'll be ready and running, but okay, why not? It's going to be called FilmSpark.ai.
Oh,
okay.
Full name change.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
You
can hear it. You know how to spell it.
That's a world's first, people. World's first.
There you go. And so what was the question? Sorry, for the mouse didn't it?
Well, so anyway, we've got maybe 10 minutes left. I wanted to reveal the project that you and I are working on together because it was inspired by this podcast. So vertical streaming is a thing. Short form dramatic content is something that FlowSpark or MovieSpark does very, very well.
MovieFlow
does very well. Short form marketing content for socials and other platforms. So I was thinking of ideas, right? Because I wanted to do a micro streamer, an episodic micro streamer, and I got this idea that I should do a show based on a podcast, right? Because it's easy in AI to do a talking head doing a podcast. And so that was the beginning of the Neighborhood podcast, which starts in 2020 when Linda, who runs a coffee shop in an urban neighborhood, decides to get everybody in the neighborhood to contribute 5 minutes a week to a podcast that is like all the voices of this neighborhood that she edits together. So now it's 2026. The thing is a hit. Right? People come to the neighborhood and take selfies. Linda is like a celebrity. She's selling coffee by the ton at this point through the internet, but there is a lot of resentment and anger in the neighborhood. She was very generously sharing revenue with the neighborhood, but when people figured out she was making millions of dollars, suddenly like the $1,000 they were getting seemed very exploitive to them. Then Linda is murdered. Everybody in the neighborhood is a suspect. And so the episodes are, 90 seconds long, and they concern all these characters over the previous 5 years. So you can piece together the relationships and the suspects and what might have happened to Linda. I don't know whether we will ever end up with an actual suspect. But the characters are really fun. I'm super excited about it. But here's the thing. We can make these episodes in like a day using Mike's platform. So,
and the thing is I want to toot your horn too, because we're working with all kinds of productions, and I'll say what MovieFlow is. We can get back to that. But like when Charlie told me about this, honestly, I was instantly excited because rightly so, many people who are coming to AI, they're filmmakers, they're directors, and they sort of have they want to do things their way, but like, and Charlie is doing, not that he's not, but like he is sort of leaning into what AI is good at and not fighting what it's bad at, which can be half of the battle, and just sort of the whole distribution, non-linear angle, the whole story. I really fallen in love with
Water, which is a well-known vertical streamer. Their app is called My Drama. They raised $70 million from Fox. They just raised another $22 million, and it's all vertical streaming, short form content like Crazy Maple Studios and all of the Asian microdrama streamers, because we live in an ADD world where people want vertical content on their phone that is short form and a bit of a guilty pleasure.
But the important thing to mention also with that is they have another app called My Muse.
Mm-hmm.
And that app is all AI.
Yes.
100% AI, mainly true crime, but some other genres as well. And, we're working with several of those companies. So anyways, if I can just squeeze this in maybe so we don't forget it. So MovieFlow is a AI end-to-end production studio, essentially. We the thing that really separates us from 99% of the tools out there is that we are story based versus being, what I call shot based. And so this is where I was talking sort of about CMX earlier, is that I feel like today we're sort of a lot of the tools, they're more tech driven. And the node based tools are great. They're great for more complicated shots and comfy UI and things like that. But when I'm working, at least, it's sort of more of an Adobe mindset where you want to see your whole story, see continuity, consistency, how the shots are going together, how they edit together, and not having to sort of jump between 10 tools to do that. And so this is what we provide. And also, like, we feel the average person, the creative person, they shouldn't have to become a prompt writing genius. Writing prompts has become very complex. There's many ways to do it. It's like fishing. There's many ways to do it, and they all work, right? But we do it for you. We break it down just into simple fields that get moved over to the prompt. So you don't have to think about these things. You can just be creative. If you want to go in and edit it, of course, we let you have full access to all that stuff in Movie Flow, but we try to simplify the process as much as possible. We let you upload a script or write a script for you if you're brave enough with AI, and do an entire scene breakdown, storyboard, characters, casting and locations, and you can get to AI is not perfect, right? You're rarely going to get the perfect thing you want in the first generation. Movie Flow, though, will get you to 50 to 60% in minutes. And then it's about going in, editing. Oh, wait, this shot should flow. This is how I want these two shots to go together. And we've built a lot of tools on top of that for creative people to control AI as best we can, for lack of a better word, because that's one of the ironies of AI right now, and then I'll be quiet, is I think, like, we've grown up with these digital tools the last few decades, and you could sort of summarize the history of us getting more and more control, right? Like, we can do anything now with flames and 3D, and suddenly you come to AI, and AI doesn't listen half the time. You can't control it. And so it's getting better, right? With better models and more control, like Nano Banana Pro, but it's not perfect. And so in some ways it's a step back.
To that end, how movie centric is it? Like, if I was going to propose, I said, I'm interested in your tool, but I'm working on a Broadway musical or a theme park ride or a theme park. Can I use your tool to help me through that process? Or is it hyper focused on what it takes to make a motion picture that screens on a rectangular screen somewhere?
No, it's a great question. The answer is yes, you can do all those things, really. We're trying to treat it more like an open canvas. Right. And again, like, I was brought up with the Adobe products. I was there when Premiere and After Effects, I was working with those guys. And so that's my DNA, and like, that's kind of how I think, more timeline based. And that, with those products, you can do any of those things like you're talking about. They have so many use cases, games and films and everything. So,
okay, well, get ready, because I've got a lot of things to throw at you.
Oh, cool. And some things, to be fair, like maybe we have to put in a new template or something to sort of, because what we've done essentially with Movie Flow is a ton of prompt engineering, to get it to be an expert as much as it can in filmmaking and cinematography and lighting and all those kind of things. But no, we've had people I actually did a little experiment with a first person kind of theme park thing. So it's very doable.
So it's, as with everything, story is the most important part. And the part that Mike excels at is the models change every week. The tools get better every week. Yeah. And so if you have a filmmaking platform, you're making films, you're worried about the story. So Mike kind of takes over worrying about what's new, getting it integrated as quickly as possible, providing support for people learning new tools. So I think that it's a huge thing for filmmakers to offload that part, because we're not Q&A testing AI generated tools. So to have a team behind you that is doing that every day is something that no individual production company could afford.
I think, especially when you get to longer form AI productions, which are happening left and right because we're talking to them. This is where Movie Flow and the few other products that are like us shine, because it's really hard to do anything long form and comfy or any node based. Suddenly you end up with this matrix on your wall that looks like a murder scene type of thing with that. Like it's unmanageable. And I think the other thing people forget too, that I'm pointing out more with Movie Flow and tools like us, is that, so let's say in a year you want to do the remaster because the models are going to get better, or you want to do the next episode. Suddenly you're like piecing it together from the 10 platforms you use, whereas in Movie Flow, it's all right there. You change your default model, you regen, your remaster's done, your update.
So we're out of time. We're at our hour mark where people start to fall off anyway. So Mike, tell us again the new name.
So first of all, to get to it today, it's Movie Flow AI, FLOAI.com. And the new name is, I have to even remember it, FilmSpark.ai.
I like FilmSpark. It's clever. It's smart. I like it. It's a good name.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I will talk to you later. Thank you for, this is the thing. When we have a good guest, it's like, why do we have to end the show?
We'll bring you back when
I went fast.
Yeah.
What we should do, Mike, is bring you back to talk through a project that was done through FilmSpark and actually have you walk, maybe bring the creators with you and have them walk through the process of how they accomplish their goals using your tool. I think that would be very cool.
Or we can do it on Charlie's when it's the biggest microdrama on TikTok in a few months and everyone is fighting to get an interview with him.
Yeah, right.
I'm just really excited about the long form stuff. I mean, I know people can do short form in AI now, without really any issue, 2 kids in their basement, a single person, but a complex team using these tools to actually build out a long form project. This is something that's very well needed in our industry.
That is our show this week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week for more AI XR news and another great guest. So
good show. Thanks.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks again for having me.
Mike, I love you, dude. Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it. Bye.